Welcome to the third hour of American Agenda. I'm Bob Sellers.
And I'm Allison Maloney in for Heather. Today, we are now joined by our family of co-hosts, Ted Harvey, former Colorado State Senator and Chairman of the Committee to Defeat the President, Hal Lambert, former Ted Cruz National Finance Chair and CEO of Point Bridge Capital, and Stacy Washington, host of Stacy on the Stacy the Right and co-chair of Project 21. Welcome, everyone.
Yeah, it's Stacy on the right, but I always just say Stacy's always right.
That's right.
So we're going to talk about last night when the president laid out his $1.8 trillion plan, just one of his plans, by the way, this one called Rebuild America. Though impassioned, it failed to impress Senator Ted Cruz, who appeared to fall asleep.
There he goes.
I've said, yeah. And I got to tell you, this is my confession. I was lying down listening to it, and for about 30 seconds, I also fell asleep. So it met with a frosty reception from the Colorado Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, right there, who took out one of these silver those blankets to keep you warm that they have down at the border. A large measure of the speech focused on jobs. He repeated the word jobs more than 40 times, promising high-paying union work in a clean energy economy. But take a look at this. Immediately after the speech, Republicans pointed out that Mr. Biden abandoned Keystone XL pipeline, blocked oil gas drilling on federal land, rejoined the Paris Climate Agreement, added corporate tax hikes that threatened new job creation. The Biden administration officials reportedly have dismissed fired worker concerns. So will we see all those jobs promised by the president? Since Stacy's always right, we'll start with her. So Stacy, what do you think?
No. So we already see the price of copper and lumber through the roof. We see commodities and goods that people purchase on a daily basis, everything from gas to things that you just buy on the regular at the grocery store. The prices are all up. That is an indicator that our costs are going up because the oil and industry sector is being strapped by this administration. They're cutting jobs. They're indicating they're going to rely on green energy, which is not a reliable source for generating the kind of fuel that Americans are used to needing, not just for their cars, but for every other aspect of life, which is impacted by the cost of gas because we have to take the goods from their point of origin to the place where they're sold, and that's all over the country. So I don't think he's going to create the jobs, and he really ticked me off with his comments about lifting children out of poverty when he's just allowed the importation of 20,000 migrant children, and he's not taking care of the 97,000 plus Black kids in foster care. We have a few 100,000 children of every ethnic background in foster care on a yearly basis, and those kids are now behind 20,000 illegal alien kids who are going to get the services that they deserve. So it was a really difficult night for Americans last night.
Yeah, it bugged me too. When he says he lifts these kids out of poverty, Ted, wait a minute. It's kind of like I can give somebody fish or I can teach them to fish, right? You don't just write a check and get people out of poverty. Maybe technically you do it this year, but you still need an economy to grow.
That's exactly right. And every policy that he's been talking about is actually going to hurt the individual from being able to get out of poverty, that he's just going to make them more dependent on government. And when you fund higher education with more federal tax dollars, you're only going to make that educational opportunity actually even more expensive. So every single policy that he has been talking about is going to make America less competitive with our global competitors. And there's a reason why wind turbines are not made in Pennsylvania, and that's because the unions have made the legacy costs so expensive that you can't compete in the United States. And now he's wanting to double down with the unions as well. So it's a disaster all the way around.
Yeah, Hal, I want to get your reaction to Chris Wallace praising Biden over his speech, saying it's going to be popular with the American people. Take a listen.
Chris? I think this is going to be a popular speech with the American public. He offered a lot of stuff. If $4 trillion will buy a lot of stuff, from millions of jobs to child care.
How we heard the word popular a lot from a lot of the media. They certainly praised him. Now we have Chris Wallace, praising him, talking about this speech. I want to get your reaction.
Look, the average American didn't watch that speech. It was very boring, as Senator Cruz said afterward, but very radical. It was difficult to stay awake, but for those of you that missed it, the summary is this. You had an elderly man that's been in the peak echelons of government for over 50 years talking about how bad the country is and how screwed up it is, from healthcare to systemic racism to education to everything. He's been there the entire time. He's never created a private sector job in his life. He's only been with government. And yet he's going to stand on stage and talk about how he's going to create all these private sector jobs. Yeah. I mean, it's a joke. And when you talk about, throwing money at this, $6 trillion, if we could fix things with money, every time they throw money at education, we'd have a better education system. It doesn't work just throwing money at these issues. We have a problem in the United States, but it's not a systemic racism problem. There's a core problem with families not staying together. You have broken homes. You have poorly educated people from the public schools. And we're not competing from an education perspective or from a family perspective. So you can throw all the money you want at this. It's not going to fix the core issues.
Yeah, I think 11.6 million people watched last night. I may have the number wrong, but I think in 2017, President Trump had 47 million. I think that was the number that we talked about. Anyway, Allison, your thoughts about last night?
Well, I have to tell you, I was sleeping, so I watched the clips this morning. But, he talks about unity, and a lot of the media said it was a positive speech. I didn't really see a lot of positivity, and the one thing that struck me is he mentioned the word crisis multiple times. However, he did not address the crisis on the border. He brought up immigration reform at the end of the speech. We have a major crisis going on, and he avoided it. Obviously, it was done on purpose, because I think that between him and Kamala Harris, if they just avoid it, don't go to the border, don't pay attention to it, it's going to go away and people are going to forget about it. Yeah. So it baffled me that he used the word crisis so many times and didn't talk about the border.
And then didn't talk about the one that all of us watching knows is a crisis. Okay, we're going to take a break here. Coming up, what was behind the raid on Rudy Giuliani? The feds confiscating Rudy Giuliani's electronic devices were reportedly ignoring a copy of Hunter Biden's hard drive. What's going on with that? More on American Agenda after this.